Tom Clark's 6M podcast is a Boink Studios production. And now, on with the show. Hey, what is up? Welcome to Tom Clark's 6M podcast. I'm your host, Tom Clark, and in this episode, I'm joined by co-host Phil Lindsey.
We have talked about the buddy cop genre here on the 6M many times before. As we always say, the archives are available, folks. Go check them out. But we've dove into movies and TV shows and had discussions about the tropes that exist in buddy cop films. And it's been around for a long time. And from the 80s and so I would say even probably the 60s and 70s to some degree. But really maybe hitting their stride in the 80s. And then now these days, like the buddy cop film is sort of a genre in and of itself, kind of like the rom-com and sci-fi or anything like that. So, but when you're talking about classic buddy cop films, when you're talking about movies that have like set the tone for the genre, you got to talk about Lethal Weapon, man. I mean, you got to at least discuss it. I mean, it's one of those things where, like, if you're making an all-time great list of buddy cop films and you don't have Lethal Weapon on there, I submit you maybe don't know what you're really talking about. Because when it comes to this genre, dude, I think it's one of the best of all time. And if you haven't seen it in a while, trust me when I tell you, you've probably forgotten a lot of it. Because, buddy, I had. But the moment you start watching it, man, those tropes are there, buddy. And you see them, and you're like, well, it's a trope. But hold on before you go too nuts on it. Because those tropes, a lot of them didn't start really becoming a thing till after this film. Think about that. I mean, this movie started a lot. But, you'll see what I'm talking about. Again, if you haven't checked it out, watch it for this pod and then come back and listen. And if you have seen it, well, you can dive right in with us because we're about to do this thing. Lethal Weapon is a 1987 American buddy cop action comedy film directed and co-produced by Richard Donner, written by Shane Black, and co-produced by Joel Silver. In that line alone, kids, are three tremendous names. It stars Mel Gibson and Danny Glover alongside Gary Busey, Tom Atkins, Darlene Love, and Mitchell Ryan. A pair of mismatched LAPD detectives, Martin Riggs, and of course, Roger Murtaugh, work together as partners. This film, distributed by Warner Brothers Pictures, released on March 6, 1987. Yes, the anniversary just happened, actually. How you like that? This movie is 40 years old now? Or 44, 34, something like that. Yeah, crazy. March 6, 1987. Running time, 112 minutes. The budget for this film was $15 million. The box office, get ready, $120.2 million. Whew. And that is your lowdown for Lethal Weapon. So, Phil, we have discussed this genre here before on the show. We've done all three Beverly Hills Cop films. We've done other things we've done The Hangover, which is not buddy cop, of course. But we've talked about this genre before. We've talked about movies. We've talked about some TV shows along the way. What's your overall take on Lethal Weapon, number one? And number two, how long has it been since you've seen this film?
It's been a long time since I've seen the original one. You know how it kind of goes with these big franchises. Usually the last installation is usually the one that showed a lot on cable TV, like on like TNT or like the regular channels. So I feel like they at one point were showing Lethal Weapon 4 a lot. But I haven't seen the original one in a long time. Still holds up really well. It's still the quintessential buddy cop movie. It's the standard for a lot of the movies that came afterwards. It's the standard for kind of what became Shane Black's career. it's like you can see a lot of the hints of Shane Black throughout this, and like a lot of the tropes that you see in the rest of his movies are right there for you. Um, a lot of the like buddy cop, like hard boiled, like noir s stuff that he likes to put in his movies are all over this movie. The score to it with Eric Clapton doing the music for it, like iconic score.
Oh, 100%. And man, when you talk about Shane Black, now we talked about Shane Black here on the show. We did not mention The Nice Guys, which he directed, which is sort of a modern day retro Lethal Weapon, perhaps to some
Yeah,
degree.
we've done an episode on Nice Guys, right?
We have. God, it's what a great movie. Holy Lord, I love that film.
Love Nice Guys. Definitely one of Shane Black's best movies. But yeah, even with that, you can see a lot of like the films that he enjoys making.
Mm-hmm. And plus, he directed Iron Man 3, which we covered here on the show.
Yeah, I'm just gonna go on record again. Best Iron Man movie there is.
I really enjoy Iron Man 3. Anybody giving it hate, I don't understand where the hate's coming from, man. It's a Christmas movie. You kidding me? So, yeah, I'm a fan of it, man. Of course, written The Monster Squad, The Last Boy Scout, Last Action Hero, Long Kiss Goodnight. And yeah, I mean, he's the original creator here, given creator for the Lethal Weapon franchise. I mean, man, the guy is just such a good director and such a good creator. Like I'm a big fan of this guy's work, man.
Yeah, yeah, but like getting to put his work behind a great director like Richard Donner as well.
Mm.
Yeah, they definitely like because I believe Shane wrote the first three. I think Donner directed all four of them though.
I think he wrote Lethal Weapon. He wrote Lethal Weapon 1, and he was on the story for Lethal Weapon 2. He does not have a writing credit for Lethal Weapon 3 or
Okay.
4. So yeah. But yeah, he was also attached to the 2016 TV show as a writer. Did you ever catch the show, by the way?
I've never seen it.
I have never seen it either. I wonder if it's worth diving into.
Hey, I really like Damon Wayans. I really like the kind of connection. Of course, Damon Wayans was in Last Boy Scout, so
Mm-hmm.
you've got the connection to Shane Black. But no, I've never checked it out.
It ran for 3 seasons.
Wow.
Yeah. So 2016 to 2019. So yeah, I'm a big fan of Lethal Weapon as well. I think it holds up well. There are a couple of, homophobic slurs in here, but I don't want to say but as if it's okay, kids, everybody relax, but we are talking about a film that came out, in 87.
Yeah.
Something to keep in mind.
Yeah.
Mel Gibson and that hair, brother. Let's talk about holy Lord. Right? Beautiful head of hair on this man.
Yeah. Iconic in this movie. The mullet.
Yes.
A lot of his lines in it. What do you say? You want another shot at the title?
Yeah.
Iconic line. There's so many things he does in this franchise. It wouldn't be what it is without Mel Gibson. When you think like movie stars, like before this era of just like the franchise being the selling point, it was like who is your leading man? Who's going to be on the marquee? Mel Gibson is a movie star, man. Now, of course,
Oh,
he's got the controversy and stuff that came later. A lot of very hairy situations he's gotten himself into. But yeah, for a minute, he was on a run, man. He was one of the biggest stars that there was.
oh, for sure. And this movie, 37 years old this year, which is unreal. Yeah, his name was bandied about for every leading man role after this movie broke, I would imagine. Like, I mean, he was mentioned for Batman, among other things. He was always on that list of, hey, maybe Mel Gibson. You know what I mean? So, like, yeah.
I know it. I know because he did like the kind of like the crazed maniac thing so well. A lot of people fan cast him as Logan for a long time.
Mm.
And if X-Men had been made like in the early '90s, I could easily see him playing Wolverine. It just makes so much sense. I mean, just look at him in this movie, like him running down the street with his shirt off. You can see it.
That's true. Yeah. Yeah. Good call. You know, do we say that this made his career? I don't know. I mean, this guy's Mad Max. I mean,
Yeah.
his second film out the gate was in '77 with Mad Max, and then he had Mad Max 2 in '81, and Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome in '85. And then right after Thunderdome, Lethal Weapon hits in '87. At that point, he's an established star, Phil.
We don't need another hero. No,
Wonderful.
he was already a star before Lethal Weapon, but I definitely
Sure.
think this is like one of his more iconic roles. This is definitely one of the things he's known for. But no, Mad Max was his breakout thing. That
Yeah.
was the franchise that really put him on the map.
I found it funny they mentioned the Air America thing in here. And then he was in a film called Air America in 1990 with Robert Downey Jr. Coincidence, I'm sure, but I kind of bumped into that. That perked my attention up when I heard that line.
Yeah.
So that was cool. But yeah, there's no denying. And look, is he controversial? Yeah. Is he a wee
Yeah.
bit anti-Semitic? Oh, you could say that.
Uh,
Man, there's some stuff going on with this dude. Where do we stand now? What's the latest? Do you know? Like, is it still bad? Has he redeemed himself? Because I really don't have the answer to that.
I know he was blacklisted at one point. I think he did a movie around 2014, 2015 or something like that. Because I believe he was in a movie that was nominated for an Oscar or something like that not too
Mm.
long ago.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, he's still, man. His credits are still there. He played Santa Claus in 2020 in a movie called Fat Man. By the way,
Have not seen that.
it's very different. I encourage you to watch it. I think you'd. I don't know if you'd love it, but it's very different. It's a different take. He's actually very good at it. And you know what? Not for nothing, Phil. The dude is effing talented, man. Like,
Very talented actor. But yeah, a lot of the personal life stuff, I can see why those things would be a deal breaker for people.
yeah. I mean, Payback continues to be one of my favorite movies ever from '99. I freaking love that film, dude.
Yeah, he's great in Payback. I mean, a lot of his major hits, he killed it in.
Yeah. He wasn't bad in Expendables 3 either. So, kind of got to be an Expendables guy to enjoy those films. I get it. Don't nobody laugh at me. I consider those films guilty pleasures because they're so ridiculous. They're like just south of the Fast and Furious franchise. We're like, oh, come on. You know what I mean? It's not quite that ridiculous, but it's close.
Yeah, I mean, if you're gonna do this ensemble cast of all of the most like iconic action hero guys in one movie, there's no way you can't have Mel Gibson. Mel Gibson was the guy at one point.
Oh my God. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, dude, I don't know. I don't know if you can imagine this film without him, but I'll tell you this. If it means anything to you, he turned down The Fly and The Untouchables in order to do this. He could have been Elliot Ness in The Untouchables, dude.
Didn't know that.
I mean, Costner nailed it, let's be honest, but man, that still would have been a good film. Ooh, man alive. Yeah. Supposedly, the casting director for this film, Marion Doherty, first suggested teaming Mel Gibson and Danny Glover. She arranged for Gibson to fly in from his home in Sydney, while Glover was flown in from Chicago, where he was appearing in a play to read through the script. And apparently, through their first read through, they kind of knew, yep, these guys are it. I mean, Phil, talk to me about the chemistry between him and Glover and how it's just off the charts in this franchise.
Yeah, could not imagine this franchise with two other guys. Could they gel so well together? They're both really great in their characters. Um, Mel embodies his character, but at the same time, um, I just can't imagine anybody else playing Murtaugh. Like, I mean, both of these guys have had like incredible careers. I don't. I mean, Mel Gibson, of course, went on to be like this big blockbuster star and all these things that went with that. We talked about what he did for like action heroes. He's like one of the biggest action stars there is. But at the same time, he wasn't sitting next to a slouch. This guy's also a legend.
Mm. Yeah, for sure. And we mentioned Doherty flying him in. It should be said also, Richard Donner was interested in working with him after Lady Hawk. And Phil, we got to take just a second to talk about the great Richard Donner. Like the creative forces behind this movie, Phil. Forget the cast for a second. The creative forces behind this movie are just phenomenal, man.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Richard Donner, of course, like gave us the first two Superman movies. The only two good ones of that franchise. Um,
Yes.
um,
Yes.
yeah, legendary director. But yeah, I mean, getting two leading men in Mel Gibson and Danny Glover, like, I mean, you essentially had like the best like tandem you could have thought of for this movie.
Yeah. I mean, it's just this film is just absolutely perfectly cast, man. For Gibson's character, Martin Riggs, I got to tell you, near the opening of this film, when he's sitting there with his wife's picture in his lap and he's got the gun, brother, I had forgotten how intense that was, man. Had you remembered that scene that clearly?
Um, no, and I think it's because of how far the franchise has come from that.
Mm,
Like it's more comedy than anything now. Like there's a lot of comedy in this movie, but it's even more comedy by four.
yeah.
And so it's not as dark and intense in some areas. Like, I mean, even some of the torture scenes in this movie are dark.
Yeah.
uh, but yeah, no, I think you have to watch it. But of course, as soon as you watch it, you getting the Eric Clapton licks in it. Do, do,
Yeah.
do, 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 do.
Yes. And that freaking 80s horn, that jazz horn that just blares into the soundtrack whenever they feel like it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Every time it happened, I'm like, oh my God, the 80s. Holy Lord, stop it. Just it's something they had to put in there. I gotta be honest with you, man. That scene, he got me. I'm not kidding you. He got me. Like I got a little choked up, man. He was phenomenal. If anyone didn't have any idea of the range this guy could have, like he's oh my God, what a scene. Again, I'd forgotten how visceral it was to watch, but like, man, just again, for me, I was just kind of reminded, yeah, this guy is a freaking pro, dude. Like he's so good at what he's doing here.
Yeah, he's really fantastic. He nails those scenes where you're supposed to empathize with him, where you're supposed to do all of the serious acting in those scenes. He nails that stuff. He nails the comedy. He's great at all of the action stuff. Like he shows a lot of versatility in this role.
Yeah, you mentioned part four. It just jumped into my head because they were what was it? It was like near it was in the third act when they're both like beat up and tired and they're old, and he's like because Jet Li had done something crazy, just crazy awesome, right? And I think he had took a gun apart or something of that, if you remember that scene. But they're talking about it. It's like, man, how did he do that? And they're like, yeah, I don't know, man. It's like, I mean, really, how did he do that?
Yeah, I Jet Li is one of the coolest action stars ever. And I remember seeing Lethal Weapon 4 for the first time at the movies and just
Mm.
thinking like this guy is like he might actually kill these guys. Like this
Yeah.
guy is incredible. Like like I mean, just even the context of watching all four movies and seeing Riggs get old. Like this is the guy that like at the end of this movie has the big climactic fight at the end of this movie, and this is a guy now that's older that's like worn down and he's going up against this young guy and this young guy is like beating the snot out of everybody. And so yeah, that scene of them like walking up like, man, how did he do that? Like, well, let's go ask him.
Oh my God. Yeah. Just that moment of, all right, let's go ask him. Like Glover's finally giving in. Fine, let's go. I
Yeah,
freaking love that.
yeah, I love also the build up of this in this movie. They do the build up of Murtaugh doing the one shot. And so him doing it at the range and then using it later in the movie, and then he tries to do it on Jet in that movie and he dodges it. And I remember seeing it like, what?
Oh, it's so good. Hey kids, Tom Clark here, and did you know the very podcast you're listening to right now is available on boinkstudios.com. B-O-I-N-K, Boink Studios is the home of Tom Clark's Main Event, Tom Clark's 6M podcast, and Two Nations Under Ted, a Ted Lasso podcast. Visit the site today for links to every podcast platform, social media, special announcements, and a lot more. Check out the site and bookmark today, boinkstudios.com. I mean, Danny Glover's had a career himself. Like, again, like Phil said, we shouldn't leave out the fact that this guy had a career apart from this. I mean, he's a legend in Hollywood as well. I mean, I think one of the first things that I really, I think I remember seeing from him was maybe Silverado. I freaking love Silverado, man.
Yeah.
Such a good movie. But I mean, Glover's been working since like 1979, dude.
Yeah, legendary actor, man. Of course, Color Purple, like a lot of things he's
That's
been
right.
in. Like, just incredible actor. It seems like a really, really great guy as well. Like when you see the stuff that he's attached to, I always kind of forget when I watch it now. Um, like just that time period in the '80s and like a lot of stuff that some of the other black actors were standing up for, and when Joshua comes in the house towards the end of the movie and he's walking around and they have that end apartheid thing on the refrigerator.
Oh yeah.
I wonder whose idea that was, and I almost feel like that was a Danny Glover call because he stood up for a lot of other stances like that.
Yeah, activism, big time. And you know what? You're probably 100% right on that. Yeah. I mean, his first film, he was an inmate in Escape from Alcatraz in 79.
Yeah.
So he started off in a classic already. He was in Silverado in 85, which is honestly, I think, the first time I remember seeing him. And then, of course, Color Purple's in 85 also, Lethal Weapon's in 87. I mean, yeah, he's, God, his career. Holy Lord, look at that list. Wow. Yeah, all the way, 1979, all the way to, 2022.
Don't forget Operation Double Drop.
Ah, that's right. Not quite the classic the Lethal Weapon is, maybe.
Yeah, I wouldn't say so.
To each his own, kids. What are you gonna do? But yeah, he's to be able to know what you're doing in casting, Phil. Like, we reviewed movies here before and said the casting was spot on or something felt off. Like, man, what an art form that is, Phil, to understand how to put people together and see if there's synergy. I mean, that's got to be one of the hardest jobs in a film I would submit. It's got to be.
Yeah, to just come on with a guy that you've never met before and really get people to believe that you're real friends.
Yeah.
Or, I mean, really get people to believe in this movie that these guys are polar opposites and they hate each other, and then they turn out to be good friends by the end.
Yeah. Oof. Yeah. I mean, it's, God, man, there's just so much to unpack here, dude. I mean, there's just so much stuff that, like, let's put it to you this way. We're talking about, Gibson and how this movie was cast and whatnot. This is really good. Gibson and Bruce Willis were considered for each other's roles in Lethal Weapon and Die Hard.
Oh, wow. I did not know that.
Dude, can you imagine Bruce Willis and Danny Glover and then Mel Gibson as John McClane? I mean, man, I'm in my head. They're both classic franchises now, but dude, I don't know. Like, it's a different dynamic, but Bruce Willis can play crazy as well. So,
yeah, I'm not sure if it would have quite hit the same, but yeah,
that's true.
Man, speaking of, like, really sucks to just see where Bruce Willis is. I hope that he's doing well, but
yeah,
like
same.
all of his health updates that we see just are so sad.
I think it came out this week that he's barely talking now.
Yeah, sad, man. Very sad.
Terrible way to go out, man. I mean, like you said, feel for his family. I hope he's got, some productive years left. I mean, I hope that there's nothing, I don't know. I don't know how bad it is in terms of, the end is near or whatever. I mean, hopefully not. Hopefully he can be healthy, and I don't know. Whew, man, terrible.
Yeah. But yeah, another legendary actor, another legendary action hero. Um, yeah, I just can't imagine like cinema without Bruce Willis. Man, he just gave us so many great movies.
Yeah, for sure. And we're talking about the scene with the gun. And kids, if you haven't seen this movie or don't remember it, you might want to get ready. I mean, it's more intense than you probably remember. There's an actual blank in the chamber of that gun.
Wow,
did not supposedly, yeah. And I mean, Phil had he pulled that trigger, it probably would have killed him.
Yeah, he could have accidentally killed himself. That's, oh my God. Wow.
Yeah, crazy. Crazy. And another bit of interesting casting here, Shane Black stated that he wanted initially William Hurt to play Martin Riggs. Studio executives informed him that Hurt was too obscure for the part. I don't know about obscure, but I don't know if that'd be the right casting either.
Yeah, I don't know if that would have fit. He may have done well, but I'm not sure.
Yeah. Here's something fun. Danny Glover's character, Roger Murtaugh, of course, turns 50 in the film. He was 40 when this movie was made.
That's funny. Did not know that. But yeah, that's always something I think about from this movie is him in the bathtub at the beginning and his kids and his wife come running in with the cake.
Yep. And the tub played a part in part 4 as well with the bomb. Remember that?
Yes.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you.
Yes. Oh, that's fun. That's fun. Yeah. Mel Gibson was only 30 when the movie was filmed, but Martin Riggs was supposed to be 38. My goodness.
Yeah. But yeah, I just think like even when you just think of the genius of those small things, like taking the time to build not just Murtaugh's character, but his supporting characters and his family life around him to show the audience like what this guy has to live for. And then like the polar opposite is not just that Riggs is completely different from him, but just like you see what his living situation is. The first time we see him, he comes out of bed like butt naked and he's got the dog in there and he's drinking first thing in the morning. And this guy, he has no privacy at all. He's also naked, by the way, but it's in such a different context because he's got a house full of people, his kids, his wife, like his kids' friends as well coming in out of the house. It's such a great dynamic that they create between the two of them.
Yeah, it's like polar opposites to a large degree, and then Glover questioning if the guy's really crazy or not, which they don't pay that off to the very end, which I think is pretty cool. Yeah. So, kids, if you don't know about this story, Murtaugh's wife died in a car accident, and watching it back, Phil, and I was kind of thinking, oh, she was murdered, and it's because he's a cop and he blames himself, but like it was a random car accident, which is like, kind of different for a buddy cop film, or I guess you could say, but kind of glad they didn't go that route. But man, just the idea that this guy may be off his rocker. And then the more they alluded to that, I'm like, it kind of makes a lot of sense that the guy is he's rudderless at this point, doesn't know if he's coming or going. All sense of direction is lost. Has he lost his mind? Has he not lost his mind? And then suddenly Murtaugh, by the way, Phil, without any warning of any kind, here's your new partner. Like, what? Like, I wonder if this happens in real life.
Maybe. I do think that the fact that his wife wasn't like killed and he had like this big revenge thing, I think that fed into his depression because I almost feel like it would be easier for him to accept if, something from his past just came back to bite him in the ass and that's how he lost his wife. But to just lose her to cruel fate, it just felt even more unfair. There was absolutely nothing he could do about it. There was no way that this guy that is this trained killer, this lethal weapon, if you will, there was no way that he could like seek any satisfaction or revenge for it because Like there is no bad guy. There is no one to punch. There is no one to shoot. Just cruel, unfair fate.
And I'd forgotten they actually mentioned the words lethal weapon in the film.
Yes.
Totally forgot about that.
That is definitely from that time period where the tagline or the title of the movie is mentioned at some point in the movie.
Yeah. That's fun. We mentioned the connection between Gibson and Willis for Die Hard and this film. It's worth mentioning that the prop Beretta 92F that Mel uses in this film is the same prop gun that Bruce uses in Die Hard.
Wow, I did not know that.
That's fun. The gun has since been retired, which is very cool. Yeah, it's again, dude. I can't say enough good things about the pairing of Glover and Gibson here. This movie doesn't work, Phil. I mean, you could have cast any two actors you wanted to. Would it have made money? Probably. Would it have, made 120.2 on a budget of 15? Maybe not. Freaking nuts, man.
Yeah. I just there's so many good payoffs in this movie of just from the beginning of the movie of setting up who these two people are separately and then bringing them together and then just seeing how much they rub off on each other.
Mm.
It's just, I mean, they have great chemistry, but I think it also doesn't work if you don't have as good of a story and you don't have all of these moments where you have the payoff like them in the range and showing, all right, well, yeah, he's old, but look, he's got this one trick. You wonder the entire movie why he's walking around with this 6-shooter and he's perfected this move where he can just kill somebody in one shot if he really has to. And then he's walking around with this guy that's just like a literal killing machine that is like crazy accurate with his gun.
Right.
Also knows martial arts and all these other things, and it's just like how did I get into this? Like, but no, like I said, you get the payoff of the stuff that happens with his family, and then he's of course walking down that alley. And he gives the line, "Ain't no way you gonna live," and then he shoots the guy with one shot.
Yeah. I love when he mentioned that Riggs knows martial arts and Tai Chi. I'm thinking Tai Chi's not a martial art. What are you talking about? Tai Chi's like yoga, isn't it? That's not an actual martial art, is it?
Yeah, it's a martial art. Like,
is it really? I thought Tai Chi was more like yoga or something.
It's mostly like stances, but it can be used as a practical martial art.
Because I remember thinking maybe the line should have been Taekwondo. That would have made a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, I mean, Tai Chi is a very calming style of martial arts that's mostly defensive, so it kind of doesn't fit his character. But
right. Yeah. There are other people in this film, kids. We have mentioned Mr. Joshua. You want to talk about crazy? We can talk about crazy. Crazy, thy name is Gary Busey. Gary Busey from such forgettable B films that we won't mention here. But man, legend, Phil. I think we can admit this guy's a freaking legend. But what do you think about Gary Busey in this movie, man? In his prime, looking great, in good shape, not quite nuts. His hair is in place. He's not yelling and howling. I mean, what do you think, dude?
Gary Busey is your standard for like an 80s bad guy in this movie. He's like clean cut, but at the same time, like he does very ruthless and cold things where it's just like, who is this guy? He's got like the slick back hair and everything from that era of bad guys. He's really great in this. He's so good. He's so subdued when he needs to be, but then he's also like legitimately terrifying at moments as well.
I mean, honestly, one of the first things I ever remember was DC Cab. I had to give him a shout out for DC Cab, Phil. I can't help it. Oh, I'm sure that movie doesn't hold up. But as a kid, I freaking loved DC Cab. I had to just come out and say it. I'm just going to own it. That movie came out in 83. So, yeah, I freaking love that movie. But he's done a lot of stuff, man. I mean, he was in Predator 2, so he's back with Glover again. He was in the original Point Break, Under Siege, The Firm, Black Sheep, Lost Highway. Of course, Star is Born in 76. This guy's been working forever until, again, he maybe kind of went a little crazy for whatever reason. It's also worth talking about the Texas Wheelers. If you don't know about the Texas Wheelers, it was an American sitcom that aired 74 to 75. Gary Busey actually played the son of a trucker, I think it was, this character. They're all wearing cowboy hats. And the guy that played his brother in that show, Mark Hamill.
Wow.
Yeah. Little weird things that just don't get off the ground. Maybe we would have been talking about the Texas Wheelers instead of Star Wars had that show been a hit. I don't know. But man, what could have been? But no, he's great in this film. Like you said, he's quintessential villain. Makes a lot of sense. He's a henchman. He's just a yes man. Whatever the guy points him at, he goes and shoots it. And the guy in question, Phil, is Mitchell Ryan as General Peter McAllister in this movie. And dude, Phil, if you don't know him by name, when you see him, you're like, I know that guy. He's a bad guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But yeah, Busey, that's why I'm saying he's the quintessential bad guy in the 80s films where the henchman is always the cooler villain. Every time.
Yep.
If I remember correctly, Jet Li is the henchman. He's not the main bad guy. And he's absolutely, I can't even remember who the main boss is in Lethal Weapon 4 because Jet Li is just so cool.
He's so cool. Yeah, he is. And again, his boss, Mitchell Ryan, kids, talk about another legend in Hollywood. His first role was 1958. He's no longer with us, unfortunately. He passed in 2022, but he still has things that haven't been released that he filmed. His last, acting role was in 2021. So this guy worked forever, which is very cool. He did have some comedic roles. He was in Liar Liar, which is a comedy, of course, which is probably where some people remember from. He was in Judge Dredd. He was in Hot Shots Part 2, which we don't have to talk about here. He was in Iron Eagle 3. He did a lot of TV work as well. But nothing against him. It's kind of a typical bad guy. Phil, did you find it interesting? We didn't see him a whole heck of a lot in this movie. There were points where I'm kind of like, where's the heavies here, man? When are they going to show up?
Because he was always the shadowy main guy. He was always the guy that sent someone else out to do his dirty work. You weren't going to see him out in the feud. That's what Joshua's for.
True.
Mr. Joshua. Mr. Joshua.
Mr. Joshua. Yes. Interesting, that kind of stuff, man. Tom Atkins is in this film also as Michael Hunsaker, who's Murtaugh's old friend that was hiding stuff, wasn't telling him the truth about what was going on with the big operation there. But, yeah.
I don't care how many times I see this movie. The way that he reacts when he gets shot and the bullet comes through him and then goes through the eggnog too, and he's like kind of like shaking like he got electrocuted. Every time I see it, I bust out laughing. It's just not supposed to be a funny scene, but it's just so funny to me.
And by the way, in the editing process, Phil, was he holding that carton before the helicopter showed up?
I don't know.
Because I honestly thought he'd already put it down. But
I had to rewatch it.
Oh, maybe he had picked it up very quickly. But yeah, he's been around forever too, man. He's still with us. His first role was in 68. He's still acting. Good for him, man. He's been in a lot of stuff too, man. So yeah, Escape from New York. The Fog. The Fog scared the crap out of me as a kid. I'm talking about the original 1980 version now, by the way. Creep Show, which again scared the crap out of me as a kid.
Creep Show was a very scary movie.
Man, if I watched it as a man now, maybe not, but as a kid, horrified by that film. Yeah, I couldn't do it. I just couldn't do it. Oh my goodness. But yeah, he's very good here. Yeah, the cast altogether is very good here. Darlene Love as Trish Murtaugh. She did play his wife in all the films, didn't she?
Yes. I believe it's the same actress that plays his daughter in all 4 movies as well.
Tracy Wolf, I believe so.
Yes.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, let's see. Steve Kahan as Police Captain Ed Murphy, who I think is also in all the films. Here's a trope that didn't exist in this film, Phil. The captain wasn't constantly screaming at them through the whole movie. That's a nice change of pace.
No, that was not happening here. That's something that we see throughout the entire Bad Boys franchise, though.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah. His first acting role was in 1978, and his last role was in 2006. So, yeah, I believe he is no longer. Actually, he's retired. So he's still with us, but he's retired. So there you go.
Yeah,
He was in all the Lethal Weapon films.
maybe somebody should yell at these guys. They caused a lot of collateral damage in this movie. Killed a lot of people.
I'm saying, yeah. But kids, that essentially is your cast here. I had to also give a shout out to Grand L. Bush. I'll never forget the dude's name ever, because Phil, during that time frame, he was in everything, and he was in Die Hard. He was one of the he was a Fed, wasn't he?
I think so.
Yeah, it was him and the I can't remember the guy's name. They got blown up in the helicopter, I believe. In Die Hard. Grand L. Bush, man. I mean, again, if you watch movies during that time period, you'll see him go, wait a minute, I know that guy. So yeah, he has since retired as well, which is kind of shocking. His first role was in 1979. His last role was in 2002. And on TV, 1976 to 2001. I mean, dude, he did on TV, he did everything from Good Times to Barnaby Jones to Lou Grant to The Incredible Hulk to Chips, BJ and the Bear. Dude, listen to this. All right. Good Times, Barnaby Jones, Lou Grant, The Incredible Hulk, Chips, BJ and the Bear, Trapper John MG, Police Squad, The Jeffersons, Airwolf, Hunter, Simon and Simon, Murder, She Wrote, Nash Bridges, Walker, Texas Ranger, Chicago Hope. My God, Phil, this guy got a lot of work, man.
He did almost like every major television show from that era.
He did. Oh my God, that's awesome. I love that guy too. He's a very good actor. Let's see. Yeah, dude, he was in Stir Crazy. He was Slowpoke in Stir Crazy. Let's see. Night Shift. He was Mustafa in Night Shift. He was Streets of Fire, Brewster's Millions. He was in The Color Purple also as Randy. Hollywood Shuffle, of course, as Mandingo. Don't ask, kids. Just go watch it. Awesome film. Die Hard, of course, as Agent Johnson. License to Kill, Lethal Weapon 2. He's back. Let's see. He was in The Exorcist 3, Free Jack. We don't have to talk about Free Jack. He was in Demolition Man. Forrest Gump. He was the Black Panther leader in Forrest Gump. Man, this guy's been around forever.
Sorry, I messed up your Black Panther party.
Yeah. Oh, it's so good. Oh, that film. He gives that speech, and he's unplugged. And whatever he said made the guy that organized the rally cry. He's like, whatever he said must have been very moving. It's such a great bit. Such a great bit. Phil, what do you think about the plot of this film? And kids, if you don't know, we'll run it down for you. Martin Riggs, he's in a bad place, just so you know, and he becomes Murtaugh's partner. Murtaugh has a former Vietnam War friend, Michael Hunsaker, who reaches out to help his daughter. We see his daughter kill herself. She jumps off the balcony, which come to find out she had been injected with something which caused her to do this. It made her go a little wonky. But what do you think about the story here? It's a basic whodunit. We're trying to find the bad guy, trying to find out who's behind this. What's your takeaway from the plot here?
Yeah, very very stereotypical 80s kind of noir film is backdrop of damsel in distress got murdered. How did she get murdered? And that's kind of the starting premise. And then you get all of this government government conspiracy from the war, and you're thinking, hey, there's got to be something really nefarious they're planning. Nope, it's just drugs.
Yeah. That's all it was.
It's so 80s, man. Like, yeah, like you've got all these special forces and stuff like linked to this, and they're like super hush hush. They're killing people because they don't want this to get out, and it's drugs.
I mean, if you believe anything the 80s movies taught us, Phil, cocaine is just blowing in the wind like pollen. It's just everywhere. Like, it's just, it's the root of all evil in the 80s, that cocaine is. Like, oh my goodness. It becomes, that's a plot device in and of itself, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely in these kind of movies, there's always like some massive plot to smuggle drugs into the country.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it's heroin in this movie, correct?
Yes, I think so. Yes.
Yeah.
Riggs is like undercover and he's going to buy cocaine. And then I kept thinking, where's his backup at? What's happening here? And at the end, spoiler alert, kids, by the way, at the end when Gary Busey's killed, I'm watching this back and I'm thinking, okay, let's don't kill this guy. Because as tough as he is, he may roll on other people to not have to serve that much time in prison. And are we to believe that the entire infrastructure of this drug trade has been torn down by these two cops? Or are there other people who have not yet met justice?
Yeah,
but
I mean,
instead, Phil, they just shot him.
Yeah, the 80s. We're supposed to just believe, all right, well, you took out the top two guys. This thing completely crumbled after that.
Yep, it's over.
No other consequences to come of this.
Right, we got him. We're good.
Tom Clark 6M Podcast is sponsored in part by Radius Law Group. Every day, Radius helps individuals, families, small businesses, and nonprofit organizations throughout North Carolina, Florida, and Pennsylvania resolve their legal issues by providing effective legal counsel in the areas of estate planning, as well as elder law and Medicaid. Radius Law holds the radical belief that working with a lawyer can indeed be enjoyable. So give them a call at 1-800-519-5667 for more information and tell them that Tom Clark 6M Podcast sent you.
To add, you're going to love this, to add tension between both Gary Busey and Mel Gibson for the film, they were told that it was the other guy who kept eating the last waffle. Of all the things, Phil, like, man's got to really love his waffles to get upset. That Gary Busey, I hate that guy. Freaking last waffle again. I'm trying to have breakfast here.
I just love the idea of them like having this like 10 fight. They're like rolling around in the mud and water in front of Murtaugh's house, and he like Mel Gibson gets really close to Gary's ear, and he just whispers, "Lego my ego."
Yeah. Oh, wonderful, wonderful. Yeah. Mel Gibson and Danny Glover both shadowed LAPD officers. And Richard Donner consulted the L.A. County Sheriff's Department to ensure an authentic portrayal of the police force, which I commend them for that. But would we have known the difference either way? I don't know.
No, I love that because it's L.A. and it's police. There are things that they leave in there, like with the kids, and the kids are like, "Yeah, my parents say that the police kill black people," and it's like,
right? Yeah. Oh my goodness, yeah. Ooh. I love those kids, by the way. They're freaking awesome. That kid with the 3D glasses on the whole time. Like, what are you doing wearing those things?
Man, again, 80s, man. The kid with like the jacket with like all the little tassels on it.
Right.
It's so great.
Oh my God.
But yeah, I love that the build up to before Mr. Joshua and Riggs ever come across each other. We get the scene of the kid telling him, "Yeah, it was like that tattoo," and then we get the evil music, and it zooms in.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh man, they're just as dangerous because they have the same tattoo. They're from the same special ops unit.
Oh, that's fun. Here's an interesting tidbit. Supposedly in Shane Black's first draft of the script, Riggs and Murtaugh were much darker characters with very grim backstories. They had both had flashbacks of their time in Vietnam, with Murtaugh at one point remembering how he accidentally killed a young soldier with his bare hands during intense military training, even before he went to war. And Riggs remembering how great a killing machine he was and how many people he killed working as an assassin for the CIA. Like, that's a much different film, Phil, had all that happened.
Yeah, I mean, but I love the idea that uh, Murtaugh is a veteran. He did go to war, but he
Mm,
settled down and he has a family that grounds him. So
right.
he's not as consumed by all of these things as Riggs is.
That's fair. Yeah, yeah. And Riggs had a chance till his wife died. And now he's right back in the same boat he was in when he came home, evidently. Yeah, which makes sense. Um, I didn't know this. Supposedly, Ridley Scott was the first choice to direct this film. But due to Scott's still recent tensions with Warner Brothers during the making of Blade Runner, the studio refused to offer him the job. That's crazy. Imagine this film as a Ridley Scott film, dude.
That makes sense. I can see where this would fit his wheelhouse in some
Mm,
ways.
yeah, for sure. That's again, I mean, just so many classic moments in this film. The cast is freaking great. Everything's working. I don't know if anything. Again, there's a couple of homophobic things mentioned, and there's a lot of naked Mel Gibson. If that's your thing, you'll love it. But
Yeah, man, I just think if the quieter moments aren't as good, this movie doesn't work. If
yeah,
it's just nonstop action and the comedy isn't actually good, and I think if the stuff with Murtaugh and his family isn't as heartwarming, because I think that's kind of the thing that we kind of go on the ride with Riggs, and we say how it softens him because he just has like this endearing atmosphere around him, and you can see why he's such an easygoing guy in some ways.
yeah.
Like when they're sitting at the table and like you could just see all of this stuff happening at the same time. Like he's doing the stereotypical complaining my wife can't cook thing, and
Right,
his
right.
oldest kid is like now like trying to meet boys, and she's dating and she's got a crush on Riggs, and the other two are just like joking on her the entire time. Uh, there's just so many like heartwarming moments. Them doing the rap and making fun of him, and then Danny Glover does the rap with him. That is so funny. It's
Oh, it's
so
so
funny.
bad. He's not on camera for the majority of that, which leads me to believe that was that done off camera and they threw it in or they added it in post, maybe? I don't know.
I think you're supposed to get like the reactions
Oh, I
of like
see.
his family, and you see Riggs is like kind of like seamlessly fitting in with them
That's fair.
because he's such a likable guy, and like his atmosphere is what it is, and that's kind of like what brings Riggs in. Like you got like so when you do get the moment where they're outside and he's like, you have a really great family. You could see him sitting at the table and enjoying himself.
Yeah. By the way, did you bump into the fact that his daughter was so smitten with Riggs? Did that come off weird to you at all, man? Like,
No, because I think it makes sense with what Riggs is supposed to represent in this movie.
yeah, that's fair.
Uh, because I think he's a bad boy. He's a bad boy in the '80s, and this is a his daughter's just starting to date boys, and of course, like she's like he's got like this edge to him, and yeah, it made sense to me.
Um, yeah, he's got the hair, he's got that smile. You know, he's got the chest. His shirt keeps coming off. Yeah. So I get it. By the way, here this is awesome. This is the first movie to show a modern cell phone in the history of Hollywood. How you like that?
I did not know that.
Yeah, man. I had a bag phone, Phil. I think I've mentioned this to you before. I had a bag phone, a portable. Had the cord on the receiver. Swear to God, cord on the receiver. Yeah, the thing was way too expensive. Every phone bill was like $800 or some nonsense because they charge you by the second or whatever it was. Like, can't pay the rent this month. Got to pay the phone bill, you know. Oh my goodness. Yeah. Um,
Yeah, I mean, we used to have the old rotary phone, which seems like it was just forever ago.
oh no, we had, of course I grew up with rotaries. Yeah, for sure. Um, yeah, man, how things have changed. Freaking nuts, dude. And I'd forgotten, Phil, every year during holiday times, we always talk about, is this a Christmas movie? Is this not a Christmas movie? Dude, I've forgotten this takes place at Christmas. Had you remembered that? Because I totally forgot about it.
Of course, it's a Shane Black movie, so you
It
know
is
there's
a
gonna be
Shane Black
Christmas.
movie. Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, the Christmas stuff, because Murtaugh's birthday is close to Christmas, and then you have several scenes that have Christmas themes to it. Like, I mean, the scene where my man got shot and the bullet goes through the eggnog.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh my goodness. Yeah. Um, God, really good movie. Really good. You know what? I really want to go see part two now to see how it transitions while it's still fresh in my head. I'd be curious to see how part two transitions from part one because I have no recollection of it at this point, to be honest with you.
You haven't seen two in a long time.
Yeah. Um, yeah. Again, kids, lots of good stuff to be had here. Typical 80s action, that freaking sax that you hear every 2 seconds. The great, I mean, yeah, I was going to say the great Eric Clapton. How about his great guitar playing?
Yes.
I won't call the guy great anymore, but because he's really not. But classic. I mean, Michael Kamen is on the score. If you know anything about 80s and 90s action films, you got to know Michael Kamen, for goodness sake.
Yeah, I think yeah, a part of what makes this movie so memorable are things like the score and the little bits of stuff that sets the scene.
Mm. And, you know, you mentioned the ending apartheid in South Africa. In Lethal Weapon 2, the villains are South African.
I forgot that.
Interesting. Yeah. This is the only Lethal Weapon movie not released in the summer, and also the only one that didn't make $100 million at the box office. The number I gave you kids is combined at this point, 120.2 million. But yeah, it's you know, I guess initially during its actual run in theaters. But you know, it's one of those franchises, Phil, that just kept catching fire. I mean, the first movie was a hit, and then it, you know, part two did better. I assume, you know, part three did, you know, even better. I mean, there's rumors of a part five. Is that been confirmed? Because I've heard back and forth on that.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think they should make a five, but I wouldn't be surprised because
Mm,
Hollywood knows they don't know how to let a franchise just die.
yeah, that's fair. Um, as of right now, I don't think there's anything happening. In 2011, Warner Brothers announced it was going to reboot the Lethal Weapon franchise without Gibson and Glover. It was going to feature the same characters but a brand new cast. Thank goodness that didn't happen. But let's see, a TV version premiered on September 26th. There we go. We just talked about that earlier. And yeah, I mean, yeah, I mean, I don't know, dude. Do you Beverly Hills Cop this thing and bring them back on a streamer? Is there anything left to do? Like, that's always the question for me, Phil, is what ground is left to cover that we didn't cover in 4 movies, for goodness sake? Like, I don't know, man. You think we should just leave this one alone? Yeah.
No, I don't think there's anything more to do at this point. Rick's got his happy ending. He got married again. He's got a
Yeah.
kid. What more do you need to do? Like they're now a big family. Uh no, there's no more stories to tell with this. I think you let this I think you let this be with the fourth movie.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it ended with family photos of the cast and the crew and the actors and the
With
production crew as the film goes off.
listen, you don't get a more perfect ending to a franchise than that ending with the pictures and why can't we be friends? Come on,
Yes.
no, do not revisit this. Let it stand where it was.
Oh, how I hate that song. It's just been it's so overplayed for me, man. Oh my goodness.
But
Oh,
it's such a perfect way to end the franchise based
it
on
is.
like the buddy cop thing that they do and everything that we get at the end of the franchise. It's such a perfect way to end it.
It is. And so many things that still like the Three Stooges gags from the franchise, and that stuff's still with us, and the crazy cop kind of trope and stuff. I've used the all right, do we go? Is it 1, 2, 3 and go, or is it 1, 2, go on 3? I've used that here on the show without even realizing I'm doing Lethal Weapon. I've used that many times before. So like a lot of the stuff from this franchise, Phil, just is still standing the test of time, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah. Such a great movie. So many things that I think of, like uh, Murtaugh, so proud of himself that he shot the guy in his leg. See, I know how to kill him. See, you know
Yeah.
how to kill everybody. And then the guy comes up and tried to kill him anyway.
Yeah, you had to kill him. You had to kill. Yeah. See, we're good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, which again we get the good payoff of them like definitively killing Joshua together with the one shot. The and you get the pose of them shooting at the same time. Very 80s, very buddy cop film.
And here's something. Again, it's stuff you just kind of you kind of find along the way. But Jackie Swanson, who played the girl that went off the balcony, this is wonderful. When you see her go off the balcony, that is the actress. That's not
Really?
a stunt person. Yeah. She was trained by a stuntman for this. Dar Robinson, legendary stuntman. This is wonderful. This stunt was done using an airbag covered with a life-size painting of the driveway and cars.
Wow.
So it visually blends into the real scene. So the editor was able to hold the shot until just as she makes contact with the airbag for realism. Because that, I'll be honest with you, I had to look away. I have a problem with heights and like falling. And Phil, I can't even watch it. I think I told you this. I can't even watch it in a movie or a TV show. It messes with my head, dude. I don't know why. But I actually looked away. But now I'm going to go back and see it just for that spot if I can handle it.
Yeah. What a very gruesome way to start the movie. Very graphic suicide scene.
Yeah.
Oof.
Very nice guys kind of thing, right? Where it ends with a beautiful woman dying. So
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah, because it's a very noir trope to start with. It always starts with a woman. The detective trope and the narration at the beginning.
And by the way, kids, nice guys in the archives. Go check it out.
Yeah.
We had fun doing that show. Yeah. Well, kids, there's Lethal Weapon for you. There's lots more to talk about, but guess what? We'll eventually probably dive into parts 2, 3, and 4. If you're so inclined, you can actually check them out and enjoy yourself. But man, Phil, what do you think about this, man? Like, where's Lethal Weapon fall for you in your favorite? Does it make a list of any kind of favorite films for you, or is it just a film you just enjoy watching? I mean, how high do you regard this movie?
I would say when you think of buddy cop films, it is probably one of the best. It's the gold standard, in my opinion, for buddy cop films. Uh, when I think of like Mel Gibson movies, like we said earlier, it's not his breakout role, but when I think of Mel Gibson, it's one of those movies that I immediately think of.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, and honestly, Phil, I think more about this than I do Mad Max at this point
Yeah, I would agree.
for him. So, well, there you have it, kids. No, it's not Bruce Willis. It is Mel Gibson, and there's Lethal Weapon for you. So, Phil, let's try to take it home, my friend. Give me your last word on Lethal Weapon.
Great movie. Some things from it feel a little bit dated, but um, it's just hard to duplicate the chemistry that we got between the leading actors in this. Uh, what we got in the screenplay from this, and just how this kind of launched a lot of the tropes that we knew that came afterwards, how this helped to launch Shane Black's career. A lot of things this movie was the catalyst for.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And, you can only ever do a classic one time, like originally do it. I mean, this movie, for a lot of reasons that Phil just mentioned, a lot more, is going to be regarded as probably one of the greatest of all. I mean, definitely the greatest buddy cop film of all time. They can try to mimic the formula, and I'm sure the formula will continue to be mimicked from here to the end of time. Because once they can prove they make money with something, they're just going to keep on doing it. But you can't quite replicate the chemistry between Glover and Gibson here, which is off the charts, as we said when we opened the show. So, kids, stay tuned for more. You'll probably see parts 2, 3, and 4 covered at some point. More to come on that. Keep your eyes open for a possible part 5. We never know what the future holds, folks. So we'll see what happens. But in the meantime, that is Lethal Weapon.
Hey, thanks for listening to the show. Check out our social media on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at 6M Podcast. We'll see you next time.